Hi, Chris. Good to see some new faces here.
Hi, Lisa.
Oh.
I invited Chris because of our Jenkins conversation. And I thought it could be cool to have a Jenkins person. I don't know, Chris, if you're interested in being here all the time. You don't have to. If we ever plan to speak about Jenkins, we can always tell you in advance.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, last time we had kind of a little bit more of like a heated Jenkins discussion. So the fact that Chris is here this time, but we don't plan on talking about Jenkins feels a little bit dirty.
Well, you can watch the recording and then tell
Yeah,
us your
and then
opinion.
send us a 3 paragraph long message after, like, how dare you not have a Jenkins rep?
Okay. I'll check it out later.
Yeah, appreciate it. I think kind of the general gist of it, and Victor, you're welcome to chime in as well. This will be like a gross oversimplification, but the role of Jenkins in deploying AI ML applications and kind of what that flow looks like from a data ops perspective, especially if you have a company that is still heavily like leveraging Jenkins, for instance, um, and how that might be integrated somehow into like the AI ML Python ecosystem.
Yeah.
Um, but it took some interesting directions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jenkins being um, the longest running CI/CD framework, still being used quite extensively, especially in large corporations. With the introduction of AI and which comes with the models, the data, and everything become more interrelated. Lucky or not, so I think there's a lot of discussion about how to make CI/CD framework play in the whole AI governance framework and the data flow, data ops. So that's why we feel that Jenkins like to understand where Jenkins is going in that area, and we also believe that there are really need for Jenkins to play some roles in those areas. Yeah, that's why. So Chris, yeah, do you have any? Is this topic brought up in the Jenkins community recently?
I don't see that much discussion about AI ops or ML ops when it interacts with it, intersecting with Jenkins. So I'm not sure, but I'll watch out for these too.
We also
Okay.
saw you as a mentor in an LLM, like Google Summer of Code, like project. And
Yeah,
then I thought, oh, that's cool. Yeah,
yeah. We have an AI chatbot project and we have an LM project.
I see.
That's
Okay,
good.
cool.
Yeah, that's actually a good starting point. AI chatbot. What do you
Yeah.
use AI chatbot? So now with AI, the very common popular word is vibe coding, vibe programming, which means using AI to create new code.
Um,
So yeah, so how does Jenkins deal with that when it comes to security, safety, managing the data? Because now the code itself is data. Like how you're dealing with it.
I think it's like for the time being, it's like for the project we're going to work on for GSOC, at least it's more on how to use AI to fetch resources more effectively. So maybe not that in depth yet. We haven't gone that far yet, so we'll see.
Um, so yeah, in the past, so because I'm involved in a lot of different communities, one thing about security, regardless of Jenkins or kept any CI/CD framework, there's already well-defined ways because they're all part of the software build process, right? So there are ways to generate, for example, software build materials, to capture the licensing, the security aspect of it, any changes and all that good stuff. And then also there are securities authentication and fine-grained authorizations already built into the process to manage that whole software workflow, regardless of Jenkins or something else. With AI, the data flow become also part of the picture, right? Because the software is data now. So yeah, that's where I know it's a new I think it's an emerging topic and need to be discussed. Is that something that you feel that Jenkins community will be interested in collaborate with this group and look into it?
I think so. I think I could be a bridge as well if that's needed. Yeah.
That would be cool.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love to have more of those discussions as well and see if we can try and formalize some of these thoughts. I think being kind of a thought hub, we don't necessarily have to come up with the answers or the solutions, even just the questions, I think is progress to get these communities to kind of come together. Awesome. We can get started with the meeting at this point. We have gotten to know each other a little bit, but I would like to do kind of a formal round of introductions since we have some new folks here. So I can get started. My name is Lisa. I run product as well as like this DataOps initiative at a company called Data. So we do an open source data catalog called Apache Gravitino. And so a lot of my interest in this space is sort of in metadata activation and sort of like event triggered systems, but also like data ops enablement. And I initially started as like an ambassador with the CDF, and then eventually we kind of wanted to go deeper into what sort of tools within the CDF space are applicable to different like data pipeline workflows or MLOps workflows. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. Anybody else want to go next?
I'll go next. I'm Roxanne. I work for the Continuous Delivery Foundation. I do all of the content and I help with initiatives like these to get them out there and support them. So I'll be the one mostly answering your emails and yeah, linking with all the communities.
Victor, I'm going to call on you next.
Oh, okay. Okay. Usually I wait for the last because I start with V, right? So, my name is Victor Liu. I'm independent. Been worked for Oracle for 17 years, mostly data guy, but in the past several years, been in open source community, just having fun with different things. And being a database consultant for so long, yeah, data ops is definitely an interesting topic for me.
And Sage, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so my name is Daniel and I go by the pen name Sage. I have recently published a book with Taylor and Francis on open source technology and how you can leverage it to build a corporate IT infrastructure. We're kind of expanding it to platform engineering next. I'm working with another professional in the field, so that is how I'm into DevOps. I kind of started with DevOps and now then I had a background in cybersecurity as well due to my decade of experience in the military. And then I have recently, 5 years ago, I transitioned to AI ops basically, and I've deployed automatic speech recognition systems end to end. I've worked with LLMs, and right now I'm working with Syllabi to set up their image generation pipeline using Kubernetes cluster and all of that stuff. So that's a pretty high level kind of introduction of mine.
Awesome. And Chris, do you want to go next?
Yep. So my name is Chris. I'm based in Hong Kong, so it's nighttime where I am right now, and I am a software engineering by trade, but I volunteer with Jenkins, so I am one of the like Google Summer of Code org admins. Also, like I am also like a maintainer for a couple of the plugins, and so nice to meet you all here.
Awesome. Thank you all for coming and for showing up and showing your expertise. I think one of the things that always surprises me about these meetings in particular is just like the depth of it, like knowledge that a lot of the folks here come and have. It's really like been something that has surprised me how senior leaning this group has become for whatever reason. But I am really happy to see you all here, and thank you for making the time for today. We want to go over some admin updates and some recording updates and go over some of the blog posts that we're at. But generally, the way that these meetings kind of work as like an overview is we'll do things that kind of help provide materials out to the community. So a lot of this can look like things like blog posts, like webinars, like videos. But also we want to create a forum where people can talk about different things. So a good example is every other week or every other meeting, so once monthly, we do like a birds of a feather type discussion. So last time we had our first one where we discussed CI/CD and AI/ML. So we try and keep it, a little bit broader so that we can, allow ourselves to go on tangents and that we don't have to feel super restrictive. And it's a way for us to kind of cross-reference different notes. And the reason why is because we have a good mix of folks that come here, some with, pure DevOps backgrounds, others with data engineering backgrounds like myself, and then others with like very, specific AI backgrounds. And so getting to cross-reference, what are you doing in your organization? How are you tackling this problem? What are some struggles that you've had? Can be really valuable. And really just to understand kind of each other's worlds a little bit more. And that's really the point of this initiative. So Roxanne has some updates for us so that we'll be kind of going over in terms of the admin side, and then we'll go over some of the rest of the stuff that I mentioned as well. So do you want to show us the landing page changes that have been made?
Yes. So this is the page. I added the GitHub repo. I'll share the link afterwards, or I think it's in the doc already. So if you want to have a look at it yourself, and any feedback is welcome. I added more contributors. Thank you, Victor, for your picture. So if you want to be listed here, you can just DM me on Slack or by email and I will add you. I added the recording of Lisa's workshop and our Tech Strong episode, and then we have one blog post so far. Lisa, do you want the launch blog post to be there, or?
Yeah, anything that dilutes my face from this page as much as possible is really the end goal here.
I think eventually it will. Once we have more.
I think there's a photo of me in like every single one of these.
1, 2, yeah.
Yeah, even in that little YouTube thumbnail.
But I think that updates every time we put a new one. But
Okay. Well, hopefully it's not my face each time.
No, last time it was my face.
Okay. Well, we can alternate.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, and I added little icons at the bottom. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cute. Okay.
Oh, there's a period there. I don't want. So yeah, any feedback is welcome. You can look at it on your own time. Any questions about that?
I think since we have a couple new folks here who maybe haven't had a chance to see this page before, I'd love to get first impressions. Like if you're a stranger, if you're somebody completely new coming into this landing page, like what is your impression of what this initiative is and what are like the main takeaways that maybe you see? Maybe we can put a link down in the chat for people to check out locally as well. And, Chris or Sage, if you have any feedback, and, Victor, of course, if you have some additional notes, I'm happy to hear them.
I think it's like I'm not sure when I look at the website, what the SIG is actually for, or what the initiative is actually for, because I'm still not sure. So I was confusing myself a bit too, because I thought it may be a SIG, but it's not. So a bit
We
cluttered.
thought about making a SIG, but then we decided against it, right, Lisa? You met with the TOC or something?
Yeah, there's a little bit of more admin work that comes with having a formal SIG, but I also think that the way that you measure the output of a SIG is a little bit different from what we would produce.
Okay.
But I think that's kind of a good point of feedback actually, is that because we're so used to seeing SIGs, if we come in, we just kind of assume that it's going to be a SIG. But if it's not a SIG, then how is it different than a traditional group like that?
We can also have a tagline or like something that's clear at the top, you know?
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
With,
think
like a reason to join, you know?
yeah, like what
Read
is the
UX,
value for
basically.
somebody coming
Yeah,
in? Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And maybe we can split this up as well. Because what is data ops, you know? Is that like, I don't know.
So one of the things that might be worth looking at is, I don't know if other folks agree, but maybe removing the roadmap section but replacing it with like a graphic or something that kind of, I think when people look at a roadmap, they get a good idea of like where this is headed. And we haven't really sat down and formalized our roadmap milestones and kind of what we want on like a quarterly or monthly basis.
Yeah.
So I think that like there's a little bit of vagueness here, and that's kind of on me because I didn't write super clear materials at the beginning, and we've been mostly working off that. But I think that would probably help people understand like what this is actually for.
Yeah. You can also just doodle it and I'll make it nice or something.
I've been playing with ChatGPT's image generation a little bit more lately to make like graphics and architecture diagrams, and it's surprisingly competent,
Oh,
um,
cool.
but not editable, which is kind of the deal breaker.
But then you can send me that and say, do this, and I will
Yeah.
make it like this, but better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dan the Sage, if you want to add into that as well.
Sorry, I got disconnected. You were talking about the input for the blog structure for the link you shared, right?
I
Yeah.
see how you feel about the page. Like,
If it comes
Uh,
across clearly what we're doing and what your impression is of it.
My initial idea, I was actually referred through for by a friend over here. Otherwise, I think, but I've also been a fan of Linux Foundation projects as well. I've already mentioned that I've been using those tools a lot, like Kubernetes and Loki and all those stuff. So yeah, regarding that, I think that it maybe for someone who already has a background, they would understand. But maybe we would want to add some more details to make it much clearer. For example, we're talking about what is data ops. How about a better one liner to actually explain all of that, what the scope of data ops is? Because right now it's not just CI/CD pipelines. There's MLOps, there's LLM ops, and all of that. So there's a lot of buzzwords going on around that, and we can clarify our definition in this start. What I understand is that the participation required is only for technical writer and proofwriters, so proofreaders. So yeah, that makes sense. But for the vision and mission around this, the impact that we want to create, that I don't think I think it can be improved. We can improve it more around that. Rest all is fine.
Lisa, I think you could also, maybe if we want to have, or if when we do have a what is data ops blog post, we could just put another, maybe not a button, but like
Yeah.
more or something.
Well, I think the better idea here is like, yes, to have materials that more define data ops in terms of its define, like in terms of like really its end-to-end scope, but also like under that data ops section, we have our definition of data ops, and then we list some examples, right? Like, okay, like, cloud native deployment of like data architecture,
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
like inference infrastructure, and then
Yeah.
observability. And we just list a few really like juicy items that get people enticed. Because I think that one of the issues with the curriculum that we've listed is that it's very high level, but it's like one or two words, right? And I think that it doesn't really capture like specific use cases. And I think that's kind of a really interesting direction to go. And then like really like coming up with like a 2 to 3 sentence like general definition. I think that we do have that somewhere anyways. And
Right.
so yeah.
Yeah, we can also improve the roadmap part of the section as well, because again, since I was like, if I'm thinking as someone who does not know about Linux Foundation, or and you might want to make it more friendly to someone who's coming for the first time. Maybe we're not doing it for the novices, maybe it's for the professionals, but not every professional would know what is CD Foundation, what is the Linux Foundation project is all about. You might want to ease them into it so that it's more understandable. So I would understand that, but someone who many of IT professionals I know have no idea about Linux Foundation or all that. Maybe we want to ease them into DataOps, how it is linked to the Linux Foundation. How I want the roadmap needs more elaboration, and maybe the points you've written in fundamentals, DataOps, DevOps, and DataOps philosophy. I think that should be after what is DataOps, in my understanding, so that we can cover a few liners to explain that, maybe add some flow charts and something like that. Maybe that would actually bring it out more, if I'm clear what I think this is I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that, yeah, maybe we should just I know that you put all this work together, Roxanne, but I'm wondering if like
I
restructure.
copy pasted this, Lisa.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, that's good. Because I think starting out with like a what is data ops section, and then adding like shortening the why are we putting this together, adding that in there, and then doing the definition and then a few examples is kind of going to be the key piece. And we can shorten the why are we putting this together. I don't really think it needs to be its own section. And then one of the things that's interesting is that the who should participate is there, but we should also add enthusiasts. But we say who should participate, but not necessarily why we want those people to participate, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And what their goal is in participating. And so
yeah.
instead we're getting more writers and practitioners, which I'm happy with, but also we need practitioners as well.
Right. Before we keep
I'm
going,
sorry, what is enthusiast?
enthusiast is someone who's excited about something and will share their knowledge, right, Lisa?
Yeah, yeah. Like because some people they don't want to take the meetings unless they feel like I don't know, they just don't want the workload of having something else to their table. But even getting feedback on stuff like what you guys are helping provide in this meeting is incredibly valuable. I don't want you to feel like, oh, I don't want to, participate because then they're going to put me on the hook for these things when really we just want you to show up.
Actually, I have a very different understanding of it. So the professionals, I've been in touch with a lot of professionals and all of that. So whoever writes AI enthusiast means that they just read stuff and have never implemented anything in their life. So that
I
is
see,
why I
yeah.
wanted to understand what exactly that meant. But yeah, I was someone who has a technical background, someone who has like my wife is a technical writer herself. She has a technical background and all of that. So obviously, practitioner adding practitioners would be a good idea. Professionals would be a good idea. So we have those who can write, and we have those who have worked on the coding side as well. So that is what I understand. But in my mind, I thought enthusiast as maybe you're talking about those YouTubers or something like that. So yeah, that is why I was clarifying that.
You know what? I wouldn't even mind if we had YouTubers in on here. Victor, you have your hand raised. I know that you do have to leave
Yeah,
soon.
yeah, I need to
Yeah,
jump in. So I just want to go through. Yeah, I agree that having a definition is at least interesting.
yeah.
There are, however, different ways to do that because of the perspective.
Mhm.
For example, for DevOps and CI/CD automated focus, their definition, like for example, Microsoft, I believe, says applies agile engineering and DevOps best practices such as version control, CI/CD monitoring, and to data and analytics pipelines. That's the from perspective of DevOps. And then there are also, from perspective collaboration and process integration, Gartner do that. I believe they say call it collaborative data management, focus on communication, integration, automation of data flow. And there are also other group like business value and agile, like similar,
Mhm.
like Forrester, IDC have their own. And then from data management, that's similar, yet also have a different, like IBM Think is build, manage, and operationalize data pipelines for secure and consistent delivery. Yeah, I think it's good to have a definition, but do we need to have different perspective on, what it
Yeah.
mean to different groups?
So that's a really interesting point. So one of the things that I get very frustrated in is when groups go in circles redefining the definition every 5 or 10 years when it's unnecessary to. But this is kind of one of those exceptions where it's a legitimate case to define data ops, right? At least in terms of what it would mean for the scope of our working group. And so as much as I'd hate to set aside a meeting just to define data ops where we all bring together these different definitions and try and come up with consensus, I do think that there is some value in us doing that, at least for the purposes of really scoping us. Yeah. Victor, I know that you do have to head out soon, but I will follow up with you just on Slack to discuss your blog post a little bit. We are thinking about breaking it up into multiple blog posts, if that's okay with you. And then we have some edits that we were making with it, but I'll follow up with you so that we can review them.
Yeah, will do. All right,
Okay,
thanks. I
fantastic.
need to drop
Thank
now.
you.
Thanks.
Okay. I think that's enough for like in terms of the landing page. I think that by the time we look at this the next time, it'll probably be completely different.
Yeah.
So I don't want to shove too much in it. And I think that's enough for us to make changes and then get like a second round of feedback
Agreed.
if possible. Yeah. If there's any other notes that people want to add in before we move on from the landing page, I'm happy to open it up just for last comments. But I think in general, we have some great feedback so far. Fantastic. Okay, so the next item that we want to go over, or yeah, we want to go over the blog submission form.
Right.
Yeah.
We just thought about what makes it easier for people to submit their blog posts. So
Mhm.
just submit a form and then I can create a Google Doc and everyone can collaborate. Are these questions enough? I don't want to make it too long, yeah.
I think so. This is the blog summary is similar to like an abstract, I assume, right?
Right. Like what's it about?
Yeah. And so the idea is that they're going to submit this idea for a blog and then we're going to reach back out to them and then collaborate with them to help kind of get it through.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would add like as I know that this is something that we're going to work on as well separately, but as we work on the blog flow, like we kind of add that little body of text under the title, just kind of saying this is what to expect in terms of timeline. You submit something in 1 to 2 weeks, we get back to you, and then we're gonna work with you to help write this so that, and maybe pair you with some other technical writers if you don't want to tackle this by yourself. And maybe setting some expectations, like typically blog posts we look for are like maybe 750 words or so. Is that too short? It's been a while since I
think it
worked
depends.
on a blog post.
I don't really like to put a limit.
Yeah.
Because some technical posts might have a lot of code and then they're super long.
Yeah. I would say generally, like we can add something like generally on average, like it's around 750, but this is very flexible. Yeah, like I would put like a word count minimum of like 500, I feel like, for a blog post. Yeah. And then for the blog summary, I think that that's probably going to be the big barrier where people like don't really know how deep to go. So we can say like this can be in point form. You can write a few sentences summarizing this. Yeah. That way people don't feel like, okay, I have to prepare like this whole like in-depth abstract and they accidentally write the whole blog post and they submit it. I would also add another question, like a yes or no, like, have you already written this blog post? That way, yeah. They can just submit something if they already have something that exists. Okay, fantastic. I think that's most of the stuff that I wanted to add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wrote, what do you need help with? But that's optional.
Can we make this like a multiple checkbox? So then we can add like, I need like a technical editor. I need like a content editor. I need somebody to co-write. I need promotion.
All promotion is built in.
Yeah.
Just these two, or?
Product
Product
I would
review.
say like a content reviewer. Sorry.
Well, I will review it, like, no matter what.
Some
Yeah.
kind of product review or comparison. I don't know.
Ooh. Do you think
Fact
that
checking.
added, yeah, like a fact check? I part of that is like a technical editor, but I wonder if there's a more explicit way that we could say that. Because when I think of technical editor, it's like somebody who just makes sure the code works. Whereas this is like I need somebody who can gut check me on like my assumptions. Can we just call me out as one of them?
I think that's not clear.
Call me out.
I was thinking something along the lines of I don't know, product review or something like that. Like if there's a new open source product or project, and maybe we
Yeah.
would want to go through review and compare it. Is that the scope?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Like somebody submits like a project or a blog post that they've created and they want kind of us to chime in on it. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be a different thing, though. Like,
Yeah.
would they submit a blog post to pitch their project?
Not just a blog post, they can give us a GitHub repo or something like that. There is a lot of what I'm coming from is that there are a lot of tools that claim a lot of things, and then we can actually look through it and
So,
talk about that. Okay, if they're really up to that mark, or it is just some marketing hype. Like there's a lot going on around agentic workflows and all of that. So I'm kind of
Oh, it could be
building
tested.
a parallel. I'm
yeah.
building a parallel with that.
So, Dan the Sage Con. I'm gonna say that by the way. I'm never gonna call you by just one name anymore. Um,
Well,
Um, so you don't know this, but we actually are planning to do a data ops landscape. And so
okay.
that feels like the right place to have like if you're submitting to the landscape, then we review on those bases because I completely agree there's a ton of like shit like out in at least like the AI/ML landscape right now. And so being able to assess at least in terms of maintainability and maturity, I think, is something that we can really provide value to in the ecosystem.
Or even in the DevOps side, there's a lot back and forth between cross-plane and backstage and all of that, and then
Yeah.
we can. I was just that's on all on the top of my head. But since it's my first time, I'm trying to get
Yeah.
to know you guys more on this. But
Yeah.
this was my brainwave that I wanted to share. That it's not just an AI/ML landscape; it's even on the other side of the CNCF and the cloud native landscape as well. So that is something we can go around with.
Yeah. If that's something that you're interested in working on, then maybe we can have you take a more involved role in helping us build and shape the landscape program. Would you be
Yeah.
interested in that?
Sure,
Yeah.
I'll look into it definitely.
Yeah, we're still in very early stages, but just like the CDF landscape that exists, like we kind of want to break out different sections of the landscape that makes sense for like either MLOps or observability or deployment, and CI/CD tooling is kind of one of them. And so we want to make sure that we have a way to really assess these tools, but also to kind of like when you look at a landscape like this, it's a little overwhelming, right? And you don't know
Yeah.
which side it's coming from. And so you kind of want to have a way to kind of like tag or at least mentally like bucket them as a user or team side. And so that's something that I feel like we could really like flesh out.
Yeah, I go through this page a lot these days. I'm actually writing a book with a friend of mine on platform engineering, so we kind of have to go through this page a lot of the time. So I do
Okay.
understand the overwhelming kind of aura it
Yeah.
has.
Oh my gosh. Have you seen the Mad landscape?
Sorry.
Do you know the like hold on. I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna link this here, and Roxanne, you're gonna have to open it.
Yeah.
So this is the the infamous MAD landscape, which is the machine learning and AI ML.
Oh yeah.
And it is like each year it doubles. It is like actually each time I try and show this in a presentation, I have to like crop it at some point because it's just so big. So this is yeah.
There's a mad amount of projects going on in AI. I don't know how much of them are sustainable, but there's mad amount of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Mad.
It is true madness right now.
Do you think it's like the dot-com bubble where everyone's just like slapping AI onto it and eventually
Yes.
it'll like,
Yes.
and then yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Only the ones that are actually driving values would value would stay. Like the infrastructure guys, they're not going anywhere. Uh, the ones, the base foundation models that are there to stay, but the wrapper models or the wrapper companies that are using AI to, for specific use case, they have to evolve a lot. For example, in the company that I'm working with right now is Celebi. So they have their AI model on. They had this whole pipeline to build faceless videos based on prompts. Now the Ghibli trend kind of got them to, okay, now we're not doing faceless anymore. We need to add characters and consistent characters because Ghibli trend has started. So a lot of this is going on along with that, and you do not have much time to do that. There is not much testing done, and then you have another load of technical debt there. So it's all madness that the AI landscape. Like if you remember Kubernetes, I think that also started a big wave in DevOps, but the AI wave is totally something else. So as long as you do not have a long-term sustainable model going on and you're going on trends, you never know which way things would go. Enter DeepSeek. So what happened? So
Yeah.
yeah.
It changes. Well, this is like even a very US centric landscape too. Like there's a ton of other projects out there that are missing from this landscape. And like the Asia stack is very different, especially in China compared to what we see here in the US. Maybe
Oh
that's
yeah.
a different data ops conversation. That would be kind of interesting to go into. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we
I want to understand one thing. So in data ops, we're covering both these sides, right? The data engineering and the DevOps kind of what we do in DevOps side of things. So we're doing all of this, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't control ourselves, so we're doing both. That's that's the issue. But yeah, so my background is in data engineering, so big data infrastructure, as well as like AI/ML kind of data serving. And so we have like a lot of different data platforming teams who kind of come in here, but that's sort of one of the interesting things in terms of how we structured is that because I'm helping lead this initiative, I pull people from the data engineering world into this particular meeting and they've never heard of the CDF before. And then the CDF naturally gets a lot of these DevOps guys and internal platforming teams that come in. And then it's this converging of both worlds of just like really understanding like, basic things like DBT models or analytics engineering, and then how you can use something like Terraform to deploy those models, right? And maintain them.
Oh yeah.
And that's like the perfect intersection that we're at. But the issue that we face is that those intersections happen end to end, right? At every single place of the stack. And so the scope of what we do ends up being quite wide, even though it's a very specific intersection that we're looking at.
Okay.
Does that
Okay.
make sense? Yeah. Because like it
Yeah, I
even
get that.
to like using like Grafana or Prometheus to like,
Yeah.
monitor your
For
infrastructure,
observability.
right? Yeah. But that's like even just in terms of knowledge and scope, a totally different place than like
Oh
deploying
yeah.
DB models. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Got
Yeah,
it.
this is I can't wait until 2025, guys. Whatever is released here. But this is kind of why I feel like something like this is needed because we need to kind of teach DevOps engineers like how to look at something like this and figure out what tools maybe their teams are actually using, right? Like what's actually relevant in their organization and to navigate something like this. And then likewise, instead of having data engineers or ML engineers rebuild the same tools like, MLflow or Kubeflow or Airflow, instead well, why did we create new tools to do these things when we could have just used tried and true, production ready systems? And it's because of the lack of knowledge sharing, right? So that's kind of where we're going for.
Yeah, so when you're making keep on making tools and add more features to it, and in the end they forget what was the problem they were trying to solve. They forget that. So
Yeah, they
Lisa,
absolutely do.
I'm in contact with someone from SAS right now. If you want, Lisa, they'll be speaking at CDCon, so you can always meet them there. But I can also invite them to the meeting. I don't know if they have time though. But
Yeah, I think they're really trying to I believe, move more into the open source space. So
yeah,
their new open source program director is actually president of the ASF,
what's
which
their
is
name?
I think it's Ruth.
Okay. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
talking to Brett, and they're doing stuff with CD events.
Okay, so that might be interesting to look at because I don't think from the AIML side they're doing as much, but if they have like Ruth on, then I'm sure it's like really big data infrastructure that they're kind of looking at. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, she's their new OSPA director.
Cool.
So okay, well, we'll kind of backlog the landscape thing, but I think in terms of the next win that we want, like just thinking about the sections, I think
Yeah.
in terms of how we want to
And I
organize.
think we can
Yeah.
put it in a doc, everyone can drop links, and then we can start
Yeah.
organizing.
Yeah, we can just start something and dump some thoughts into it.
Yeah.
Okay. So for I think we can skip some of the blog post stuff that Victor had because I do want to review it, but we do have a separate blog post that Victor had written that we're still kind of in the process of editing it. So I'm just going to paste the link here. But everybody is welcome to chime in and add notes and edit. We're going to break it up into multiple blog posts as well, so that then we can really make sure that we have like enough feedback on it before it goes live. It is like a bit of a heavier lift, so we want to kind of break this up as much as possible. If you're taking a look at editing or going through it, please don't feel like you have to do the whole thing. Like just looking at it like paragraph by paragraph, whatever you have time for, that's more than enough. The only thing that I ask is that you concentrate on more than the first paragraph because everybody's gonna look at the first paragraph anyways, so we can divide and conquer this a little bit more. And I know that Jesse has done some wonderful work in sort of adding in some notes as well. And so once things are kind of a little bit more polished, we can maybe add a graphic or something to this and then kind of.
Yeah, I will make a graphic. So this is like 1,700 words.
Yeah.
So
So I think splitting this in two is kind of the perfect length. Okay. Awesome. The only other thing that I want to add, and I might backlog this, is structuring a GitOps book for us to start kind of adding material into. So we do, I've never done a Git book before, but I do like the idea. I know that there's a couple alternative documentation items for kind of like book writing out there that is available. I've run into Git books quite a bit. And so I think that even like one of those network brainwave type documentation systems would be helpful in terms of like getting all of our knowledge together as well. So kind of like the true end goal of the initiatives is to put together like a certification course for the Linux Foundation, but we're kind of still in our ramp up stage. So once we get our roadmap a little bit more hunkered down, we'll be able to define those kind of things a little bit more. And I think kind of converging some of the stuff that is gone over in the fundamentals of data ops talk, as well as like our curriculum that we've kind of placed out, and then fleshing that out and adding more stuff as we go on will kind of be the way that we end up shaping that. And yeah, the next thing after I want to go over is just some conference CFPs. So I found some really interesting conferences that I've been submitting to lately. A lot of them kind of close in the next couple weeks. And even though that's not really part of what we do, that's more of the CDF ambassador programs. I just wanted to throw out that there are some cool conferences, and I do suggest that you submit talks if you're interested in talking about data ops in any sort of way, whether or not it's part of what we do or just on your own. There's just a lot of really cool like speaker stuff out there. I'm also on the program committee for AI by the Bay. So if you end up submitting, do give me a ping and let me know. That way I can kind of help give feedback or push on some of the stuff that we have. So yeah, I think the only other thing after that I want to add is hashing out a next birds of a feather topic for the next meeting. So each other meeting, we take some time, usually about half an hour to 40 minutes, to like really go down rabbit holes and tangents and explore different things. So I think the last time that we did something like this, I ended up with like 20 new tabs open because we kept cross-linking other stuff that we wanted to share with each other. And so it's a really exciting thing to be part of. And if it goes again continuously really well and with demand, we can increase the frequency of the birds of a feather, just to give people something to look forward to. So there's a couple different topics that we can go over. Last time we talked about CI/CD and AIML, and I think because the conversation leaned very Jenkins heavy, I would like to lean towards like AIML a little bit more. So one of the things that I want to actually go into is like edge AI a little bit more, and kind of where does DataOps place in the edge ecosystem and what kind of tools that we have. So how do we build, AIML systems on IoT devices, and how do we actually maintain them, and how do we deploy to edge devices as well? I think might be a good one. I don't know if anybody else has another topic that might be interesting. We can talk about data on Kubernetes too, like stateful workloads on Kubernetes. I think could be a good one. And then I would like maybe something a little bit more simple to go into. And then we'll post these in the Slack so that people can vote what would be an interesting topic to go over. But maybe, yeah. I don't know if anybody has is there a Slack group? Yes, we do have a Slack channel in the Continuous Delivery Foundation Slack. So do we have a link by any chance? Yeah. I'll get
1 second, I got it.
yeah, sounds good.
So you just sign up here and then hashtag DataOps.
Yeah. Now these are pretty data heavy, so maybe some others that are on the CI/CD side. We can have like a dedicated Jenkins birds of a feather. Oh, I think you directly messaged it to me. There we go. It's posted for the governance side. Ooh. Okay, one caveat is that if we do governance, so my work is on a data catalog, and so if we're gonna talk governance, then it's gonna be like, I'm scared it's gonna be 2 hours of me just talking at everybody. So as long as we keep it open. Data governance. I can't join with my Gmail ID. Oh. There we go. Data governance and metadata. Okay. I think these are some good examples. So maybe we can do like a poll in the Slack channel and get folks to vote on what they want to do for next meeting.
Not sure what you mean that Slack didn't want your Gmail. It should be fine.
Yeah, it says that the email address must match one of the domains listed below: opsmxio, into tev, testleo, linuxfoundation.org, contractor.linuxfoundation. So only those accounts are allowed.
That's weird
Oh,
because it's
Yeah.
open to anyone. And I am there with my Gmail.
Oh.
I think you can continue with Google. but not use like a specific domain, because it seems like an option. But I also see that. Yeah. And Chris is
Chris
saving
has a better link, maybe.
it.
Try this one too, just in case there isn't another one.
Okay.
These are very specific domains though, like into Tive.ai. Like what is that?
It's a pun for intuitive.
Ah.
Yeah, I mean,
see.
I think Chris's link worked.
Okay. I will change our link to that then. Thanks, Chris.
Welcome.
But yeah, I think that's most of the stuff that we wanted to cover in this meeting. So the next meeting will be one of the birds of a feather topic. You're welcome to chime in. You're also welcome to message in the DataOps Slack anytime in between, or message me or Roxanne directly if you want to contribute or get more involved in any way. But just showing up to the meeting is always really fun anyways.
Yeah.
So. Great.
Lisa, did you want me to do the poll or you will?
I can do the poll.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll create a doc for the landscape.
Sounds good. Right. I think we can end our recording then. Thank you all for coming to this meeting. And yeah, hopefully we get to chat soon. Thank you for being part of
Thanks.
this community.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Peace.
See you.